All right, ready for the Ourlads Fantasy Football Show. I am your host, Ryan McKee, here to help you avoid the infamous fantasy football last place punishment. And joining me is the Duke of Depth Charts himself, Tucker Moss, who can spot a sleeper pick from a mile away, and the managing editor for SGPN, Adam Pelletier, the man with more fantasy hot takes than I have bad draft picks. So get ready for some expert advice and enough laughs to keep you entertained all season long, I hope. Let's dive in and dominate your league. Adam, welcome. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, and I just want to be clear. All of McKee's bad draft picks are because he didn't listen to me. When he doesn't
that is
listen
true.
to me is when he has the bad draft picks.
That is true.
The picks are great.
Although I have the much superior dynasty team in our league, Adam. So don't talk too much shit.
Yeah, superior for now. Give it time.
Superior
it's a dynasty
for now.
league.
Superior for now. Tucker, how you feeling about going through the top ADP draft positions today?
I am excited because I have I'm starting a dynasty league soon. So I need to get all the help I can get. So,
all right. Well, we're talking redraft leagues today, but we did have a great show on Friday, hosted by Greg DePalma, where he had I'm blanking his name, but he had one of the gentlemen from Draft Sharks on to talk dynasty league. So go back, check that out on our channel. Make sure to subscribe to Ourlads Football, because we are coming to you with all kinds of fantasy football analysis throughout the offseason and into the season, plus gambling takes. Who doesn't love some gambling takes? Plus scouting, recruiting, all kinds of stuff. Everything here you need on Ourlads Football. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about today. We're going to talk half point PPR, ADP, redraft leagues. We're going to go through position by position, talk about the top 10, talk about guys who we think should be there, shouldn't be there, going too high, going too low. We're just going to set the table so everybody can be ready for their drafts as they come up throughout later in the summer. So let's start with quarterback. We have at the top, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and Jordan Love rounding out the top 10. Let's just start off with Adam. Who doesn't belong there?
Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray are definitely two guys who don't belong, are the two guys who stand out to me as not belonging. And I just think that's because Dak has been streaky. He's been good. He's been reliable, but there's going to be some guys who outperform him this year. And I just can't validate drafting him as a top 10 quarterback because he doesn't bring as much rushing as you think he does, which is the trap a lot of people fall into. You think he's this elite rusher, and he's really not. His passing numbers are, about the same as Kirk Cousins, who's a guy I'd much rather have in this scenario. His ADP is going to be lower. He's going to have a higher upside with more weapons. He has Cousins has some of the best weapons he's had. Last year, for example, Dak only rushed for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Okay, so I totally am in agreement with you on Dak Prescott. What is your hesitation for Kyler Murray being in the top 10? Is it his injury history?
One, it's just to break your heart and, get you prepared for this heading into the season.
Okay.
Just that the Cardinals are going to be bad again.
What?
Yeah, they're going to be terrible.
No, they're not. They're going to go over their projected win total of 5.5 wins, though, right?
Yeah, but that's like, going under the limbo bar on the first try. 5.5, they should be able to sleepwalk to that. They're not going to be above 500, and Kyler's going to continue to struggle. I mean, you have an offensive system there where you might have a new explosive rookie wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. However, the first year rookies don't usually have that mega breakout that we saw from Justin Jefferson. That Justin Jefferson season remains an anomaly where he went in to a season with an elite level quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and that's not going to happen this year. Kyler Murray is no Kirk Cousins when it comes to throwing the ball. He's going to contribute on the ground with his legs, but he has the injury history that teams are going to work to keep him out of the game, and he just doesn't have the weapons or even the abilities to take that team to a next level and advance that team deep as far as, and especially from a fantasy perspective. He doesn't have that top level capabilities.
Okay. All right. Tucker, will you back me up? Kyler, top 10, or you out on him too?
I think I kind of like him as a fringe top 10. I think because he's still last year last year wasn't great or anything, and he still was. I think he finished 10th average. Obviously he only played half the year. But he was around so he was right next to Stroud on the average points per game basis. But of course he has a smaller sample size. But
they're gonna have a better team than at least Adam. Let me back me up. They're going to have a better team than last year, the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be better than last year, but this was a team that seriously contemplated trading and replacing him to get off of that albatross of a contract. If it's a guy you were like, we don't necessarily believe in, why am I going to believe in him for fantasy football purposes?
Because his legs. Because of his numbers. When he plays, he's a top 10 quarterback. He has been in fantasy. In fantasy, he's been a top 10 quarterback.
He hasn't been a top 10 quarterback since 2001. In 2022, he was 18th. In 2023, he was 26th. And his value has gone down.
We're talking about points per game.
But his value's gone down year over year. His value's gone down year over year. His per game numbers from a rushing standpoint have gone down. Everything's just going down. He's trending in the wrong direction. He's not a guy that I want to trust and bet the farm on my fantasy team. I can't get excited about that. He's a guy who's gone down. He peaked with that rushing total of 800 yards in 2020, and then he cut that almost in half in 2021, and in 2022 down a little bit more, but that was only played 11 games, and last year played fewer games, only 3 touchdowns last year and the year before, and 5 the year before that. A lot of his numbers are inflated by that sugar high 2020 season that was a COVID year that had a lot of odd things happening, and we saw a lot of abnormal performances, and I just don't know that he can do it week in and week out.
All right. No, you're making some very valid points. I get it. So that said, if we're kicking out the Dak Prescott and Kyler Murrays of the world, who are we bringing into the top 10, Adam, in your estimation? Someone like Brock Purdy, who has been a top 10 quarterback since he started?
Since last year. Year sample size?
Well, he points per game, he was a top 10 quarterback when he came in his rookie season. And then he was 6 on the list last year, I think.
Yeah, I would be much more interested in a guy like Kirk Cousins or Jaden Daniels. Those are 2 guys that I have moved into my top that are currently in my top 10. Kirk Cousins has a prolific offense around him. He has the weapons. He has Drake London and Kyle Pitts both ready to go. Both guys who are
you're assuming it's a prolific offense. We've never actually seen it.
Correct, but I've seen Kirk Cousins be incredibly fantasy productive with less talent than he's going to have around him in Atlanta. This is possibly the best 1-2 punch at receiving that he's ever had, and I think it's going to show. And he's out there ready to show that he can be a premier and elite quarterback. They're going to be throwing the ball early, often, and forever, and they're going to keep Bijan Robinson involved as well. And he's a decent pass catcher as well out of the backfield. So Kirk Cousins just has a bevy of options, and I love that for him.
So you're saying it's a better 1-2. Kyle Pitts and Drake London, you're saying are a better 1-2 option than Adam Thielen in his heyday and Justin Jefferson?
Yes, because Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen never really played together when Thielen was at his peak. Thielen was on the decline when he was playing with Jefferson. Jefferson's, what is he, in year 3 now, I think?
Yeah.
And Thielen's been on the decline.
Year
Thielen was
4,
on the
right?
decline. Let me think. How many years?
Tucker Jefferson's going into year 4, right, Tucker?
Yeah, I think so.
Year 4. So Thielen was on the decline when Diggs was there, just remember. So they got rid of Diggs because they needed to replace and get younger at receiver. So Thielen wasn't necessarily in his heyday. Pitts and London are both younger, more athletic, and they have explosive capabilities that Adam Thielen doesn't have. They both can make plays with the ball in their hand after they make that catch, something that Adam Thielen could do, but isn't going to be capable of doing, and was never capable of doing while Kirk Cousins was there.
All right. Well, Tucker, you're the Falcons fan. Do you have Kirk Cousins in your top 10?
I think I would. It's kind of close, but like I think I would put him over like someone like Kyler. I like Joe Burrow and Love. I feel like they should be a little bit higher. I feel like what do you think of Adam? What do you think about Anthony Richardson at 5? Like, I know it's because of the rushing, but he has only played a couple games, and I don't know about the durability for him like during the whole seson.
Right. If you have so many questions about Kyler, you got to have some questions about Adam Richardson.
I have more questions about Anthony Richardson.
I said Adam. Sorry, idiot.
You did. I do have more questions about Anthony Richardson, but I also have more confidence in Anthony Richardson, but I'm a little more willing to go with the devil I don't know in Anthony Richardson. So I like him there in that spot. We saw that team last year show that they're not going to be dependent on Jonathan Taylor, that they don't want to be dependent on Jonathan Taylor. They're okay with a running game, but Trey Sermon came in and was productive. Just remember that in Indianapolis. And you add another receiver and Adonai Mitchell to go with Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. So they have a trio of receivers. They're young guys that they're going to want to get the ball to, and they're going to be evaluating Richardson as a passer early and pushing him. So I'm going to believe in him a little bit more than Kyler Murray, purely because I don't think there was ever a conversation about moving on from Anthony Richardson in the Indianapolis offseason, where I do believe that there was those conversations in Arizona.
Yeah. Different situation. Rookie QB versus a QB that's been around for a few years, but I understand what you're saying. I feel like personally we're overlooking Tua, who led the league in passing yards last year, has the same explosive offense around him as last year, showed that he could stay healthy all of last year. I see your face, Adam, and it's not you're not agreeing with me. Why? What's the hate against Tua?
Can you tell me the Tua didn't throw more than 3 touchdowns after week 8 last year? He threw his high was 2 touchdowns, and he had, what was that? 2, 4, 6, 7. He didn't break 300 yards in the entire second half of the season or after week 10. So when the Dolphins got into the harder part of the schedule, they struggled because that offense is predictable with Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. He does not have the capabilities to drive the ball down the field. We saw what they looked like in Kansas City. Granted, Kansas City's an elite defense, but the book is out on how to beat the Dolphins offense. Not every team is going to be able to do it, but this is a team, and Tua is going to be the melter in chief. And we saw it last year. He only had 2 touchdowns 3 times after week 8. He went over 300 yards once after that, and he was held under 200 yards more times than he went over 300 yards through the air. He doesn't run as well as he should. There was a really fringe scouting report on Tua coming out of college, and it's the one that I really think people need to go back to. It's that the thing that scouts noticed about him was he looked so good, but the problem was you couldn't find film of him in a bad, dirty pocket. And when he gets into a messy pocket, his footwork was terrible. And that was what concerned this scout. I don't remember who the scout was, but I remember reading it. It was when guys are at his feet, when guys are collapsing in on him, he really struggles. And that's what you need to be good at to be an NFL quarterback, and especially to be a productive fantasy quarterback. You can't melt under pressure like that. And he does, and he can't win the big game, and he can't produce in the big moments. And for that reason, I can't justify him as a top 10 fantasy quarterback because, okay, I'm going to get a couple good games against bad teams, but what am I going to do the rest of the season?
I mean, he still was, what, 6th overall in fantasy points last season?
He was, but they're going to be playing a second-place schedule this year. So their path got harder.
It's harder schedule.
Harder schedule. They still have to play a bunch of really good defenses. And let me pull up their schedule right now.
I think
because
last year he finished 11th is what I have, but I don't know if that's where'd you get the sixth best?
Tua finished 6th best in quarterback fantasy points.
I see 9 in
9.
PPR
Okay, 9.
scoring.
So still top 10.
Yeah, I had him last year. It was kind of like that. It was like the first half he was really good, but the second half really fell off big time. So it's kind of just, if you think that how long can that be sustained, his like first half, how he did in the first half of the season, like can their offense stay that way the whole year? I don't know. I mean, like Adam's saying, it's probably schedule, and also we don't really know if they can hold up the whole season long. So
all right, so you guys are both
so his last 6 games this year: Packers, Jets, Texans, 49ers, Browns, Jets. And the week before that is Patriots, Raiders, Rams, Bills. That's a much harder schedule than they played last year. He's going to, I mean,
all right.
That's the,
all right.
I look
You're
at this and
I
see he threw 14 picks last year against only 29 touchdowns. I mean, and he doesn't have the rushing to offset it. He had 0 rushing touchdowns last year, and he had 74 total rushing yards.
Yeah. No, I mean, he doesn't rush. You're right. All right. Well, we'll get off of Tua like he tries to get out of a messy pocket. I tried to segue that didn't work, but got a quick ad read here. This episode of the Ourlads Fantasy Football Show is brought to you by Ourlads Depth Charts. Need to know who's starting, who's bench, and who's mysteriously listed as questionable because they stubbed their toe? Head to ourlads.com, your ultimate guide to depth charts minus the medical drama. All right, moving on to running backs. Currently, top 10 in ADP, we've got Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs. Tucker, I'll start with you. Since I started with Adam last time, who should not be in the top 10 of those names?
Like those last like several, like 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't really know. Like, I don't know how good Josh Jacobs will be on the Packers. I mean, I like the situation, but we don't really know how many touches he'll get. Like usually they like to kind of run a committee. So I feel like that he'll be able to replace Aaron Jones, but we haven't seen it yet. And then I'm still kind of undecided about Kyron Williams and the Rams with them getting Blake Corum.
I mean, Kyron Williams you could argue that he's too low. He was 2nd in fantasy points per game last season, right? So if he has a healthy season, what's wrong with putting him in the top 10?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just worried. I don't know how much he is a product of the system rather than like Adam was saying.
He's in the same system.
No, I know. I'm saying like they brought in Blake Corum, so he could easily compete and end up taking touches from him across the season as it goes on.
What do you think? What do you think, Adam? Kyron Williams.
Kyron Williams, I think he's a top 10 and he belongs more than 8, 9, and 10. 8, 9, and 10 aren't even in my top 10. Those guys are out. I want nothing to do with Achane, Henry, or Jacobs. Again, Achane is sugar high Miami Dolphins offense. You're thinking about that 70-point game. You're thinking about all those things and you're not remembering. I want to make sure I have the exact number right because I'm deep against the Dolphins right now. Yeah, there's some bias, but it's also
he didn't even lead his team in rushing fantasy points per game last season.
Correct. And he only went over 100 yards one time after week 5, and he only went over 53 times, and he had 3 touchdowns from week 6 onwards, and he missed a bunch of those games. So you're betting on a guy. You're not going to take a guy in the top 10 who only finished with 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. You're assuming he's going to stay healthy, and you're assuming that Dolphins offense can continue to be as productive as it was early season.
Which you've already thrown cold water on when I brought up Tua.
Correct. And the same logic would apply to Achane. Now, the only thing that might buy you some space with Achane is Raheem Mostert is before last year hadn't played 16 games ever.
Yeah.
So this is a first time for him going there. But we're not just here to be negative. It's just those guys backs when they get older fall off. And Henry and Jacobs are both old, and Achane has some sugar high numbers there. I would much rather
Derrick Henry is 30 or going to be 30 this season.
Yeah. And he's getting up there. And
Jacobs is how old?
I think
Josh Jacobs is in his late 20s. He's younger than you think.
26.
Because he came in, younger than you think, but he's not a guy. I don't know we're still wondering what that Green Bay offense is going to look like, if he's going to get the bulk of the work. But guys who are mysteriously absent from the top 10, Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Etienne, and James Cook, 3 guys who have proven to be dynamic playmakers. Etienne finished as the RB3 last year in total points, and I believe he missed a game in there, if I recall. He's dynamic as a pass catcher, and he's going to be able to – they're going to key in less on him with some focus that the Jags put on bringing in some receivers. Trevor Lawrence trusts him entirely. Isaiah Pacheco and James Cook both finished outside the top 10 last year, and they did not start the year owning their backfields the way they did later in the year. James Cook is only going to get better as a pass catcher, which was a big thing that held him back last year. If you watch those drops, and please don't make me watch them again because it was just painful and they came at back-breaking, soul-crushing times.
Adam is a Bills fan, for those of you who don't know.
Diehard Bills fan. Diehard Bills fan. And James Cook's drops are scalding into my memory. But I believe that he can get better, and I think he's going to be better. He's a big part of this offense. They have Joe Brady. His offense is built around no-name receivers and dynamic running backs. And Isaiah Pacheco, the Chiefs really flipped the script. They went from a pass-happy team with Patrick Mahomes to more of a true West Coast team where they're going to run the ball, play defense, and beat you with timely passes. So I love Pacheco. Pacheco, Cook, and Etienne. Those are 3 guys that I wouldn't be shocked if they finish top 3. I don't know that I'm investing top 3 draft capital in them, but I'm definitely looking at them in the late round 1, early round 2. I'd like to leave with those guys on my roster.
Got it.
I totally agree with those 3. I want to mention one more. I like Rachaad White, not as much as I think those guys are a little bit above, because White has a little bit of concern with the new OC, like Dave Canales. They were feeding him a lot during games, and they got Bucky Irving. And we don't know how much. We don't know if he'll be as much of a bell cow as he was last year, where he was getting a lot of touches. But he like started off pretty slow at the beginning of the year. Their run game was really bad, but he caught so many passes, dump offs from Baker, and as it went on, he was really dominant in fantasy through the second half of the season. So I think that he could be a potential guy there too. I feel like I like him better than the 8, 9, and 10 guys as well.
All right, so Achane, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs, you are both in agreement that they should not be in the top 10. And you have said your piece on who should be. Looking at the top, Adam, if given Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall, they're both sitting there, who are you taking?
Bijan right now. I just think Bijan is a better pass catcher. There's more opportunities for him in that offense than there is for the Jets. And also Breece Hall came back looking really good off the torn ACL, but always just going to be a little bit of a question mark for me after a big injury like that. But I think he's going to be good. I did slide him down my rankings a little bit just because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing the ball to the receivers while he's healthy if he makes it the full season.
All right. Tucker.
If Aaron Rodgers goes out, Breece Hall jumps into my top 5.
All right. Tucker, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley. Who are you taking if you're sitting there and both are available?
I like Gibbs better. Barkley, I mean, we don't really know. The Eagles haven't really had like a clear-cut number one guy for a bit here now. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like they'll definitely give him a lot of the bulk of the touches, but we haven't seen him on a new team, and there's kind of some more question marks there with him. But Gibbs, he's going to catch the ball a ton. He already finished 10th, and he played 15 games last year. And that's being like the number 2 sort of 1A, 1B with David Montgomery. I think that he has a lot more like upside than Saquon does.
What do you think, Adam? Gibbs or Saquon?
I'm definitely down a little bit more on Saquon than a lot of people. I have him down towards the bottom of my top 10, towards 8, just because he's going to lose out on rushing touchdowns to Jalen Hurts. That's just what's going to happen. And there are a lot of pass catching options in that Eagles offense, and that is going to cut into his work as well. He's not going to be leaned on as heavily, so he's still going to be a good option. The true bell cow backs have really gone by the wayside which makes fantasy football harder because you have to reframe what's a top 10 back. A top 10 back now is not what a top 10 back was a few years ago. So absolutely. Saquon, his production might not look like what you've taught yourself to look like a top 10 back, but if you can reframe your mindset in that he's going to give you above average back production and he's going to do it every week, you're going to be fine.
All right. We are moving on from running backs, but wanted to give Adam a quick chance to plug anything you want to plug for this next ad read. What does Adam have to plug?
Adam's always got a ton to plug. Get excited, Sports Gambling Podcast Network, all sorts of great stuff. If you're looking for fantasy content, Sean and Kramer are working through their top 10s positionally as well. Of course, we've got the Old Fashioned Football Podcast talking whiskey and fantasy football. Right now, they're doing some great best ball content and whiskey content. They were at a whiskey blending show earlier this weekend, and they had a lot of fun.
You're into whiskey and football, Old Fashioned Football Show.
Oh yeah, can't beat it. We also got 5-minute fantasy dropping 3 times a week, so tune in. So check that out if you don't want to sit down for a full 45-minute episode. Dave Heelman busting it out in 5 minutes or less. And of course, as always, non-SGPN, make sure you check out some arena football, folks. It's a good time. We had some great games over the weekend. 2 of them came down to the last second, and the playoffs start in 2 weeks. So 1 more week of the regular season and the playoffs start. Check it out on the AFL.com.
All right. Sounds good.
You said plug whatever I wanted, so you're gonna get it all.
Absolutely. I said plug. You could have plugged the fact that you're getting married next month. I don't care. It was your time. Moving on to wide receiver, top 10 ADP, going CeeDee Lamb at the top, followed by Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams at 9, and at 10, Marvin Harrison Jr., a rookie. I am a Cardinals fan, but even I know that is too high for Marvin Harrison Jr. as a rookie. Adam already touched on how he doesn't think the Cardinals offense is going to be as explosive as maybe the fantasy rankings are showing. I don't. Just looking at 11 and 12, Chris Olave and Drake London, ADP, they're coming in at 11 and 12. I like both of those guys over Marvin Harrison Jr. and maybe even over Devontae Adams. Let's start with you, Adam. Who does not belong in that top 10 that I just named?
I mean, for me, I think AJ Brown is probably over. I think he's a little overvalued there at 7. There's some guys I like a little bit more. And I
even
also
after what a season he had last year, AJ Brown.
Mhm.
I mean, he was
because
pretty dominant at times.
Devonta Smith is still really good at football, and Jalen Hurts is still going to vulture red zone touchdowns. So AJ Brown, had a prolific season, but definitely, I'm not saying he's bad. I think there are some guys I'd rather have, and I also think that, as I talked about earlier, Drake London is criminally undervalued right now. I have him as my wide receiver 5 heading into this season. He's a spectacularly talented receiver, and he has an actual NFL quarterback. And on top of that, he has a good NFL quarterback. Similarly, I think Nico Collins is underrated right now. I like Nico Collins in that Texans offense. I know they just brought on Stephon Diggs, and that's got a lot of people worried, but I think that's more. I think Diggs coming in is more likely to take away from the running back checkdowns and also take away work from their tight ends, because Diggs has kind of evolved a little bit more into he's a very crisp route runner. He's going to be very good out of the slot, and he's going to be very good in the middle of the field where he needs to win one-on-one. But I don't know that he's going to be as good stretching the field like Collins can stretch the field.
Interesting. All right. What do you think of my Marvin Harrison take? Should he be in the top 10?
I just top 10 for a rookie is really hard for me, especially with Kyler Murray as the quarterback, who, when he had his super productive fantasy seasons, it was very reliant on his rushing ability. Now the thing that Marvin Harrison has going for him, there's not a whole lot competing with him on the depth chart. I mean, he's competing with Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch.
Don't you talk bad about Michael Wilson. He's my guy.
He's a nice piece.
And
but
Greg Dortch is my dad's favorite player. So
that's wonderful. And I'm sure they're great. You're reminding me of myself in the early 2010s when I'm like, don't you talk bad about David Nelson and Robert Woods and guys like that.
Fair,
it's like fair. we can love them as players, but they're not going to make a difference. And people are going to be able to key on Marvin Harrison. Now, I think Zay Jones is going to be a little bit more involved in this. I think he's probably going to emerge as a starter here. So my apologies, Tucker, that I think your depth chart might be a little off. I just think Zay Jones is likely to emerge as one of the starting 3 receivers in this offense because he was productive last year in Jacksonville. He's become kind of the guy that scouts thought he could be when the Bills drafted him in the 2nd round. It took him crashing through a door in a plate glass window in Vegas to find that ability. But he's gotten there. But again, there's just nobody that defenses are going to key on except Marvin Harrison Jr., and that's going to make it difficult for him as a rookie.
Trey McBride.
Trey McBride's not going to pull coverages for Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison's going to be double teamed consistently, and that's going to eat him up as a rookie.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. I don't mean to be defensive since I'm the one that said he's not a top 10 guy, but it's my cardinal.
No, you're bringing up good points, and these are important things, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be enough to take it to free up Harrison to work in the way he needs to. Now he's going to have some games, but don't spend a 1st round pick on him. That's super high for an unproven rookie. And he may be one of the best receivers we've seen coming out of the draft, but so have lots of people. Corey Davis was an unprecedented receiving talent, we said. And then look, can you even tell me who Corey Davis plays for right now? I don't even think he's in the league right now.
I don't even think he's in the league. I think he retired, right?
He retired. I think he came back, though. He's still looking for a team or something, but yeah, he's still not signed.
Just keep that in now. I'm not saying Marvin Harrison's the next Corey Davis, but we get these guys hyped.
That would be a hot take.
Yeah, no, Marvin Harrison's going to be better than that, and he's going to get there. I just don't think he's going to have that Justin Jefferson breakout. That Justin Jefferson breakout season was an anomaly just because of so many things. And one of those key factors was an incredibly talented quarterback. And although Kyler Murray is good, he's not going to bust it open the way Kirk Cousins could.
That's fair. Okay, going to the top of the list: CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Tucker, how are you feeling about Justin Jefferson at number 4 below those names?
I get it because they lost Kirk. If Kirk was still there, then it would make sense to have him at 1, I think, or 1 or 2. But with the quarterback situation being in flux here, it's like, why take the risk, especially with coming off an injury as well? Why take the risk when we have guys like CD and Tyreek who are like, elite level fantasy producers as well? Jefferson's obviously insanely talented though. So if the quarterback play is good enough, or if they have a connection and he gets fed enough, then he could certainly be in the same, be number 1 receiver again, like he has before.
Yeah. You taking Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, Adam, if that both are sitting there?
Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, hands down.
Based off the quarterback play?
Yeah, it's all about the quarterback play. It's all about trusting Joe Burrow a lot more than I trust Sam Darnold, and that's just what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. Or McCarthy, whoever ends up starting for the Vikings, but I think it's going to be Darnold for at least part of the season. But I really trust that Bengals team is going to be back with a vengeance this year. Joe Burrow is going to be out there with his boy Jamar Chase, and I also think T. Higgins is going to be involved. I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are going to finish both as top 15 wide receivers this year. T. Higgins in a contract year, pissed off, looking to show everybody that he can be the guy, and he's playing for his next contract, and that's always dangerous. That's always a dangerous spot for teams to be against a wide receiver, and that's a guy you want to go get that you're going to be able to get at a good value. I actually like Amon-Ra St. Brown more than I like CeeDee Lamb as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown has proven to be a prolific receiver, and I trust Jared Goff a little bit more than I trust Dak Prescott right now. CeeDee Lamb has less competition.
Wait, you like Amon-Ra better than CeeDee Lamb?
Yes, I do.
Wow. So who do you have number 1?
I have Jamar Chase number 1.
And where do you have Amon-Ra?
Number 2.
Number 2. And then CeeDee Lamb?
Then CeeDee Lamb. And then Tyreek Hill.
All right. That is definitely a hot take. Amon-Ra over CeeDee Lamb. The way CeeDee Lamb finished last season, he was on fire. But you're right. Dak Prescott, well, maybe not the most dependable quarterback.
And they did close out the year that way, but they started a little slower.
Yeah.
There were a couple, 2, 3 40-point games in there, which are good. But I would just, can he get back to those heights? Can he get back there with defenses keying on him? And again, it goes back to he is very good. He is capable of beating the double teams, but they don't necessarily have a number 2 receiver anymore, like when they had Gallup and Cooks out there across from him, drawing coverages and creating some opportunities for him, because you have to at least pay attention to them. I don't know that a defense is going to really pay attention to Jalen Tolbert, and Brandon Cooks is good, but another year older.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else on the wide receivers that you want to mention? Anything on Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Tucker?
Both.
Yeah, Devontae, last year he finished 11th.
Yeah, I had him in a league and he killed me.
Yeah, I see like he was kind of boom bust a little. There was 2 like 30-point games, but most of the year was not great. So he might be getting a little up there in age. Then that the Raiders offense,
he doesn't have good quarterback play either.
Yeah, and that's a big part as well, of course. And they didn't really do much. It's Minshew or O'Connell. So I'd much rather go for guys like Adam mentioned, Nico Collins. Like, it's a lot more, having CJ Stroud in that Texans offense, or have someone like, I still love Mike Evans, even though he's another year older as well, but hasn't proven me wrong yet. Every year he's a great fantasy option.
Yeah. Adam, what do you think about that?
Love Mike Evans. You're going to get him at a value. He's going to slide down draft boards because everybody's going to talk about this is going to be the year he falls off. This is going to be that. Go get him in like the 4th, 5th round and be very happy if he's your wide receiver 2. Pair him with a young guy and then just spam backs, and you're going to be very happy with where your team is sitting.
All right. Before we move on to tight ends, just wanted to say, if you're looking to reach diehard fantasy football fans who obsess over stats more than their actual jobs, you should advertise with Ourlads Fantasy Football Show. Just reach out to us at team@ourlads.com to get all of our rates. Our listeners are dedicated as we are to finding the perfect sleeper pick. So make sure you don't miss out on our diehard fans. Your ad could be the real MVP. Huh? All right, let's move on to tight
That
ends.
was one hell of an ad read right there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, top 10 tight ends ADP. We've got Travis Kelce at the top, Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, Trey McBride, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, George Kittle, Jake Ferguson at number 9, and David Njoku at number 10. Tucker, let's start with you. Who doesn't belong there, or who is too high?
I think Pitts is too high, but
Pitts is too high. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the year, but then again, I would kind of rather play it safer, and go for I like Trey McBride and I like Evan Ingram was really good for me last year, and Kittle. I feel like those guys are a lot more dependable at this point, but it's Pitts is more projection. So I mean, I feel like he has maybe a little more upside, like he could be the top tight end. But I kind of like to play it safer. I mean, if you're taking one, that high, I feel like it's kind of risky.
Yeah. What do you think about Travis Kelce at number 1, Adam?
I mean, he's number 2 in my rankings. I have Sam Laporta number 1. It's Laporta, Kelce, Kincaid. So my top 3 is the same. And I highly disagree on Kyle Pitts, just because Kyle Pitts finished as the tight end 12 last year with, I mean, I think McKee, I got a call. Did you get a call from the Falcons to play quarterback last year? Like, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel there.
I think Tucker got the call. I missed my call.
And he finished about 70 points behind the tight end 4 last year, who was TJ Hawkinson, who's also going to take a step back. So he just finished 60 points off of a 200-point season, which would have made him the tight end 6. So he's right in that stretch. Once you step down from the number 1 tight end, and the difference between tight end 1 and tight end 6 this year, last year was a lot narrower than it's been. With Travis Kelce having that down year where he didn't play as many games, you really saw that gap tighten up, where between the top 10 tight ends, there wasn't that much difference. You need one of those top 10 tight ends, and you're going to be good. The key is going to be picking out who's going to be that guy. I think Brock Bowers probably deserves to be in this conversation if we're talking about a rookie, just because as I'm sitting here looking at the wonderful Ourlads defense, or depth charts, if I can use my words. Jacoby Myers took a step back last year in Vegas in his usage, which means they're going to be looking for a second option behind Devontae Adams, which means Brock Bowers coming in as the number 1. Michael Mayer never really set that opportunity. I also wouldn't be surprised to see them run more 2 tight end sets, because you wouldn't draft Mayer and you wouldn't draft Bowers in back-to-back years if you didn't have a plan to use both of them. So I really think that that's an opportunity there. I think Bowers deserves to be in that top 10. I also think TJ Hawkinson could be sneaking up there. Sam Darnold.
Who are you dropping out of who are you dropping out of the top 10 ADP if you're moving up Bowers?
I dropped Kittle and Njoku. I dropped Kittle and Njoku out of my top 10 to get Hawkinson and Bowers in.
All right.
I just think Kittle has taken a step back every year. He becomes more and more of a 6th offensive lineman every year, and he's very involved in the blocking scheme. He's still a very good tight end, but they're getting Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk more and more involved. And when he really thrived,
if they don't trade Ayuk because of his contract problems,
he would be a wonderful addition to the Buffalo Bills. That's all I'm going to say on that topic.
I think he'd be a wonderful addition just about anywhere. He's a great receiver.
He would be, but he would especially fit with the Buffalo Bills. But Kittle had his best fantasy year in a few years last year, and I just don't see him matching that production. Getting older, He's always been more reliant than Kelsey on his physicality and his ability to pick up yards after the catch, whereas Kelsey's a much better route runner, get open in the spot, and that's just the differences in the offense that they play in. Another guy that I might be interested in a little bit, definitely more, Cole Kmet, sitting just outside my top 10. I'm curious what that looks like. The problem in Chicago is rookie quarterbacks usually can't sustain anybody in the top 15. And so asking at any position, so asking him to sustain all those receivers and a tight end in the top 15 is going to be a tall task. And I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be able to do it. So maybe, but I'd avoid Cole. I like Cole Kmet, but not more than I like some of these other guys. And as for Njoku, we don't know what this offense looks like. We don't know what this Browns offense is going to look like with Deshaun Watson. And we even don't know if Deshaun Watson is still a good quarterback. We haven't seen him play a full season in, I believe, close to 3 years now. It's been a few, and the last couple times out, he hasn't looked good. And Joe Flacco had this Browns team looking better than Deshaun Watson had it looking. And that's not something I'm excited about. And the reason Njoku was so good last year was because of Flacco. So with those changes coming, I just don't know that Njoku's going to be as involved in the Cleveland offense. And it's a shorter drop for him to get out of the top 10 than to stay in the top 10 with all those players rising behind him.
Interesting. All right. One player we've overlooked talking about is Mark Andrews, who has been one of the best tight ends for the last few years, fantasy-wise. He got injured last year, and Isaiah Likely stepped up pretty nicely. Mark Andrews, as far as we know, is healthy now. Do you like him at number 6, Tucker?
I do. Yeah. I think that he'll be good. Yeah. I guess it's just, I'm wondering why he's like at 6 below guys like I feel like he should be above McBride personally, but I still like McBride as well.
I feel like McBride and Dalton Kincaid ended their season stronger last year when Mark Andrews was injured, so that's maybe at the top of everybody's mind.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Adam, about Mark Andrews?
I have Mark Andrews at 8 heading into the year. My concern there is just that there was the emergence of Likely. Zay Flowers has looked really good. Rashad Bateman is still in that offense. Nelson Aguilar comes in, and Derrick Henry joins the fray as well. So you're going to see more guys for Lamar Jackson to work with. They also drafted Tez Walker as well, bringing in Deontay Hardy. Thank you. Bring in Deontay Hardy, have all the things to do for Deontay Hardy. He is worthless.
Okay.
Please throw the ball to Deontay Hardy. I have a year of Bills film of him having the ball thrown at him and doing nothing.
All right.
To back that theory up. But I don't know. And again, he's getting older. He slows down, at the tight end position, when you lose a step, all of the sudden you're being covered by the younger, more athletic linebackers. So he's still in the top 10 because he's Mark Andrews and he deserves that respect and he has that role in this offense. There's a lot of factors and a lot of players nipping at his heels. So I don't know that he's going to, and I don't think he's going to be able to hold them off.
Yeah. All right. That's about all I have. I think this is a good show. We're right around the 50-minute mark, so I am going to let you guys go. I've taken up enough of your time. Unless there's anything else, is there any hot takes you want to throw out, Adam? You are priding yourself on hot takes today. Is there anything that we missed talking about that maybe you can get Tucker angry about something on the Falcons? I've never seen Tucker angry, but I would love to see it.
He's hyping them up, which is making me angry. It's
yeah.
I mean, I think the Falcons are going to have a good year. I mean, I'm on board the Falcon Express right now. The only thing that has me worried about the Falcons is the coaching staff can't coach the talent. I mean, that's my biggest worry. I think that's the weakest spot for the Falcons right now, in all honesty. Kirk Cousins is a definite upgrade there. I mean, I hit all my hot takes. And you you tried to talk positively about the Dolphins, and I got to talk to you about not getting fooled by sugar high numbers. So
there you go.
I think my hot take is Deontay Hardy will win like comeback player of the year or something like that.
Tucker, you watch too much football to actually believe that hot.
No, I've watched him plenty. He was on the Saints, so
you're telling on yourself. You've watched enough football that I know there's no universe that you actually believe that hot take.
I don't think he'll be on the roster, but you know.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he's gone.
Thank you to Tucker Moss, our Duke of Depth Charts, for joining us again. Thank you to Adam Pelletier. You can follow him on Twitter at Adam Pelletier, right?
Yep.
Spell that for people who don't know.
Pelletier. If only StreamYard had some sort of function that allowed people to look at your last name. If only.
Oh, wait. I can display the name, but this is I wanted you to dispel it for our
audio listeners. Yeah.
Our audio listeners.
For the audio listeners. That's true. I forget.
There you go. But if you're watching this on StreamYard or on YouTube, you can see Adam Pelletier's handle right there. All right. Thanks so much. Please like this video, comment, talk about how Adam's hot takes are crazy, whatever you want to do. Please leave comments. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to us on all audio platforms as well. We're putting out this podcast. We'll be putting out multiple times a week. It's going to be great. And thank you so much to Adam and Tucker. And we will see y'all another time.